I bring this up. I swear it has a purpose. Most of you have at one point probably sacrificed money and time to the Green Mermaid in exchange for caffeinated heated water. Don't worry, I did the same thing this morning. By doing this, not only have you helped build one of the most ultra successful companies that we know today, but you have also participated in what we call the free market. Unfortunately, the free market does not mean you got your coffee and pastry for free, but rather that you had the free choice to buy that coffee and pastry. You had the free choice to reach into your pocketbook and wallet, pull out some money, and exchange it for coffee. I believe that learning about the free market will not only change the way we think, but also change the way we live. So today I'd like to take a few moments of your time and explain not only what the free market is, but also how and why it works the way it does. Simply put, the free market is an economic system with limited government intervention. People are free to choose how they use their business, their money, and their resources as they see fit. Often, this pure economic system does not exist. There's no such thing as a pure free market. All governments have some level of regulations, taxes, or policies aimed at controlling their economy. So we'll be looking at the general concept behind it. Now, when I started writing this a couple months ago, I found myself sounding less like a 19-year-old and more like an ancient English professor. So, instead of doing it in lecture format, we're going to engage in a bit of a thought experiment and see these principles in action. Let's say some friends and I decide to open our own coffee business. Since I'm a student, we're going to need to pretend I actually have money in order to make this work. But let's say I have money that I can get an investor or something like that. Well, the first thing we're going to need to do is open up a store space. We're going to need to have better wages, and we're going to need to have competitive prices. So let's look at the store space first. We'll need to locate it in an area that's attractive, in an area with good rent. We don't want to pay too much, and nor do we want to be in some out-of-the-way place where no one will visit us. Across from a college campus might be a good idea because everyone knows students literally live on coffee. In addition, I have an interior decorator friend who's offered to design our interior space. We'll have good Wi-Fi, we'll have nice music playing, and the comfiest chairs you can possibly imagine. Sound like any place you know? In addition, we're also going to have better wages. We want employees from our competitors to come over to us. So we'll have slightly higher wages than our competitors do and hope that we can attract some good, experienced professionals to work in our environment. In addition, we'll also have lower prices. We want people to shop at our coffee store rather than our competitors, so we'll make sure our prices are at least lower than, at the same, preferably lower than theirs. So what are our competitors going to do about this? They aren't just going to sit idly by and watch as their business goes to us. So they'll hopefully do the same thing. Ideally, they'll say, well, they lowered their prices. We'll lower ours. They raise their wages. We'll raise our wages. We want to retain our employees, after all. And they have a very comfortable space, so we'll make our space just as comfortable for our customers. What has just happened? Now, because we opened an improved and a better restaurant, our competitors did the same thing. They improved theirs. They lowered their prices, raised their wages, and their customers are happier as well. But what happens if they turn to an alternative solution? Imagine if they try to make us an offer that we can't refuse, say. What if they turn to the government? There's multiple ways this could work out. Or what if they go to the government and say, well, we want to do something. The government can, for example, tell us, no, you can't open a coffee store there. We already have a perfectly fine coffee store. Think of something else, for example, just not that. Or the government might say, well, you'll need to raise your minimum wage then, to the point where we can no longer afford to pay our employees. We'll have to shut down. Alternatively, they might say, you can't locate your business there. You can't stay open this long. And a number of other things. When the free market begins to collapse in and on itself, generally it doesn't work out. All of a sudden, the government's dictating to you how you can spend your time, your resources, and your money. Inevitably, there will be consequences. So let's look at this. Let's say the government steps in and says, your food and safety standards will need to be high. So high, in fact, that none but the already rich companies in place can even remotely begin to afford it. The smaller local businesses can't even maintain the high level of safety standards necessary, so they'll have to shut down. The government might say, you'll need to raise your employees' wages by $3 an hour, and the business will have to shut down. They can't afford to pay their employees. Or even worse, they'll need to lay off some and continue on. But what happens? The companies will have to charge more. Their prices will go up. They have to cover the cost. When prices go up, their consumers stop coming. When consumers stop coming, their profits decrease. When profits decrease, that means someone's going to either have a wage cut or worse, be laid off. When layoffs occur, the people who were just laid off no longer have money that they need in order to go and buy other things, which means other businesses suffer. When the government steps in, there's going to be a negative economic impact of some kind. Now, I'm not going to say that there should be no regulations. I, for one, very much like being alive, and the people I owe student debt to probably want me to be alive as well to pay it off. So I think that we should, for example, have some regulations on things like restaurants for food safety standards, things like planes. I very much enjoy them staying in the air, and hospitals. I don't want to be operated on in an area full of bacteria and disease, but no more than is absolutely necessary. So, why does this matter? You might be thinking, well, if I'm going into business, sure. This is very applicable if I'm going into business. If I'm going into finance, probably also need it there as well. And if you're in charge of the government, yeah, you probably want to know this stuff. But wait a minute. Who elects the people who goes into the government? You do. Now, we just had an election, so I don't think anyone wants to repeat that particular cycle again. But in a couple of years, we will be electing new leaders. And you will have the ability to choose who you want. It's going to be important that you elect people that you know can abide by certain economic principles, namely the idea that inevitably when the government decides to regulate something, the costs will go up. But when the free market takes over, costs generally go down. Let me give you an example. Near my house, there's my dentist. I've been going there for more than 7 years now, which for me is more than a third of my life. And yet, across the street, there's another dentist. 100 yards down the block, there's another dentist. If you go on Google Maps and type in my address, within 5 miles, there's going to be over 20 dentists. I know, I looked at it. But I still keep going to my dentist. Why? Because I think that he is the best in town. I know some people will disagree with me, but my dentist is the best. And yet, I have the ability to choose to go to a different dentist, don't I? No one's forcing me to go to Dr. Curtis. I like Dr. Curtis. I think he's a great dentist, but no one's forcing me to go there. I can go to any one of a dozen dentists in my area. And if I really want to get creative in the greater Los Angeles area, there's thousands. I have the free choice to choose where to spend my money. And I think, frankly, you do too. You like being able to choose where does my money go. But you might be thinking, okay, so is there an example of what happens when we do the opposite? Well, yes, there was something of an experiment run. It was a bit of an unintentional one during the Cold War. One group of countries decided to abide by free market principles, Western Europe and the United States. Things are still going pretty well. The other group was led by the USSR. It didn't work out so well. And I think this is what matters. We have reached a point where we have the free ability to choose where to spend our money. And we like having that free ability to choose where to spend our money, don't we? We like being able to say, I'm passionate about this thing. I like this thing. I want it to continue, so I'm going to give my money to it. We like seeing the smaller businesses stay. We like seeing the things we enjoy staying around, so we spend our money on it. Having someone dictate to us exactly where our money is going to go just seems to run completely against our grain. So I'll leave you with this. You have the free ability to choose where to spend your money. And frankly, I think you enjoy it. I do too. If you do, well, you can thank the free market.